Welcome again. My name is Manal Zainuddin, the founder of O.R.B.I.T.S Development Code, a transdisciplinary approach for conscious learning and being. If you are new to my content, I have been in the field of education for 21 years as a teacher and a director, and now as a global education consultant. I speak about education from macro and micro angles, education that is never limited to schoolwork and the regular schooling that we know, education that is never separate from the real personal and professional world, and most importantly, that is never separate from us, conscious beings. So welcome again. This video is related to the Acts of Kind Attention series that I have been sending in my monthly newsletter. And this one in particular is related to the 15th of July that marks World Youth Skills Day. How is this related to education and consulting? Well, because when we speak about conscious learning, and in my case, conscious consulting, it is very important for me to pinpoint certain aspects. We cannot disregard such community matters, and especially in this theme, youth skills. As stated by the United Nations, and I quote, "The World Youth Skills Day of this year, 2021, will celebrate the resilience and creativity of youth through the crisis." End quote. Youth Skills International theme actually targets age group 15 to 24 and the rights to be provided with the proper skills for the workplace, both technically and vocationally, as per the latest changes and advancements, including the Sustainability Development Goals. Also, their rights to have access to quality technical vocational education training, TVET. Also to the rights to access decent work and entrepreneurship opportunities with no discriminations by gender, race, ethnicity, language, and other differences. Youth Skills International theme also comprises two groups. The first one is NEET, those who are not in employment, education, and training. And we mean by these people those who could not graduate from general education or from vocational schools, those who are not employed due to several reasons, such as not finding jobs, having certain social economic disorders, absence of direct supporters, inability to adapt into the workplace, or even in some cases physical illnesses. The second group is less advantaged workers, and we mean those workers who come from poverty, meaning that they did not have the cognitive, social, emotional resources to develop properly in order to suit the workplace. Those who receive low wages, the workers with disabilities, workers who were subject to all types of discriminations. Just like most of the themes in this playlist, Acts of Kind Attention, there is always the need for governmental interventions and initiations, and there have been great interventions by some government's policies to help through, for example, reduction of taxes, certain partnerships, decent work programs, supporting AI apprenticeships, refugee and migrant plans as well, and general public funding. But as educators and parents, we can unpack our strengths and insights to set the structure, because our children are also involved in this. All the children in the society are involved in this, and we all know that the children who grow into adolescence and then into early adulthood, they are the core of the society, and they are the core of the workplace. So there are three major challenges to conquer, as a matter of fact, which we all notice. Number one, the norms and the old paradigms, and this means the limitations and the conflicts that we are sometimes programmed into. Number two, the need to make our world more sustainable as soon as we can, mainly through the Sustainability Development Goals, which made them clear for us to fully understand the picture, or simply within our own understanding of our daily lives. And the third one is COVID repercussions and the urgent need for the recovery after the pandemic. So let's consider this as educators from O.R.B.I.T.S perspective. We start at the beginning with owning our way. World Employment and Social Outlook Trends 2021 states, and I quote, youth employment fell 8.7% in 2020 compared with 3.7% for adults, with the most pronounced fall seen in middle-income countries. The consequences of this delay and disruption to the early labor market experience of young people could last for years. End quote. As leaders and teachers, we have a huge responsibility first to our middle and high school learners as we prepare them for the university. Most school systems in the world report a considerable rate of dropouts. And when we think of dropouts mean more NEET group, more those who are not in employment, education, and training, or more less advantaged workers as well. So what practices of resilience and agility are we providing those learners before and during their middle and high school stages? As leaders and teachers, we also have a huge responsibility to incorporate high-order thinking skills and real-world thinking skills. This is the real-world learning. And honestly, this has been a pressing pipe of discussions in the education field since decades, and up till now, it hasn't been fully resolved. We are still discussing about strategies, about tools, about methodologies, and about evaluation systems. As leaders and teachers, we also have a huge responsibility to provide career counseling, which should start at the age of 13, at the beginning. This is the beginning of the adolescence, and because we want to help them explore their strengths and their interests, their preferences, and orient all this to the future career. And career counseling, as I see it, is not just support and career advice, helping those learners select the industry they're interested in, their career of the future. Actually, as far as I see it, I also consider that it's important to understand the labor world, the rights of responsibilities of laborers, certain employment practices depending on each country in a very simple manner, so they start building up this information before they enter the real world marketplace. And this actually can guarantee a win-win situation. Second is R, or raising our standards. In a global citizen survey conducted by McKinsey, high quality education was marked to be number one priority, and I quote, what they add, to improve the lives of the next generations, end quote. So we schools are actually not only graduating and not always graduating engineers and doctors, we also need workers, and we need to tailor to both. Moreover, we have a role to play when it comes to community, because we are not only, like I said, helping them to graduate, we are also serving the community, and we are supporting, and we are expected to support their lifelong learning and lifelong development, and we can do that. So as leaders and teachers, we can first increase our own knowledge about youth issues so that we can better understand the factors governing the NEET group or the less advantaged workers. For example, there is a very interesting book, Creating Good Jobs, an Industry-Based Strategy by Paul Osterman. The book explains how to improve job quality in low-wage industries, including hospitals, healthcare, retail, residential construction, restaurants, manufacturing, and so on. We also, as leaders and teachers, can highly contribute to the new growth mindsets, and this is extremely important because this will dictate their future way of living and way of interacting with all the challenges that they will encounter. For example, learning how to having this new growth mindset when it comes to taking responsibility, resilience, adaptability, agility, self-efficacy, communication, negotiation, or all these are very important skills that are urgently needed year by year as we explore the changes we are going through. Especially now after the pandemic, we have all noticed how significant and how critical having a resilient attitude is. So that's why we all have to raise our standards, and it has to start from schools. B, believing in our assets. Now, one high quality education was marked as number one priority in the survey, in the McKinsey survey that I just mentioned, for the purpose of improving the lives of the next generations. Then how can we as schools use our human and material assets to support the youth? And here, as leaders and teachers, we can, especially leaders, can empower their social workers, the school counselors, and even bring in coaches to listen to the youth and try to address their concerns as seriously and effectively as possible. Also, leaders and teachers can, as leaders and teachers, we can provide upskilling opportunities that the community can offer to the middle and high school learners, such as work-based learning opportunities, internships, job shadows. I personally find this very critical and very important in the build-up of this new generation, and that's why there will be a separate playlist and series about work-based learning on this channel, because I personally find this very important, and it does set the tone for the coming years of those adolescents as they move into university and then later into the labor market. And I remember during my tenure as a head of department, the head of the English department in 2008 or 2009, a 15-year-old girl was joined us for a 2-month practice, and that has been very, very inspirational for not only for her but also for those middle and high school students who all sit together. And it was very exciting when I used to walk with her into the classrooms, when we used to sit together, all of us, all those groups of learners doing project-based learning, the way she was preparing her material, organizing her material, the way that she was communicating with them and they were communicating with her. That was a very, very exciting experience, seeing all those group levels, because it was 10, 11, and 12, 9, 10, 11, and 12, both American and British system. So it was very important to see how they communicated their thoughts and ideas, and how they learned to organize their material and to go into a process, reaching a product at the end all together. And I remember that she wrote a thank you letter at the end of that period, and I still have her appreciation letter until this day. That the girl was brilliant, and the way she conducted all that was very inspiring, not only to her but also to those learners who got in contact with her. So that's why having a work-based experience is so important to start at an early age. So let us find what are our assets and start building up on them. Integrating our mind and positive emotion. And we all know that there are new paradigms developing now. For example, there is the phenomenon of the solopreneur, and this is the entrepreneur who is working all by oneself to create a product, and this product will flourish into $1 million brand name. Now, such a phenomenon was never imagined before, because the society convinces us that starting a project is almost impossible without certain limitations. So this is how though these new paradigms are building our societies now, and we as schools have to support that. So as schools and leaders, we can create a pool of talent in our community so that all ideas are encouraged. And I mean all ideas, not the ideas of a certain group, of those two best learners in the class, the two who we see as the most intelligent, or the three or the five. No, we mean everybody. All the ideas are encouraged. So we go on with the idea to see what it will lead to, and that's part of design thinking as well. So this is how every learner can be interested about something, because throughout the process they will be discovering certain aspects of their own personality. They will be discovering more and more about their preferences and about their abilities, and this will eventually reduce dropouts, because it will open certain opportunities which they never thought that they were interested in, or they were capable of. And this will also increase interconnectedness, because the more they are working, when we are talking about the school, this pool of talent, the more they are working on this, the more confident they will be of themselves. And this is so important, because we can call this a learning ecosystem, and this is absolutely important, because it is urgently needed at this time, especially now 2021, after the pandemic, and as we move forward into 2030 and the vision of 2030. As leaders and teachers, we can also enhance self-awareness and regulation, so that more mind-heart coordination and coherence can be practiced for purposeful skill development. And I will be speaking more about this mind-heart coordination in other playlists, so stay tuned to all that. This is very important, because we might have the best plans, we might have the best ideas, and we might have the best team to implement the plan. But if we are not engaged from the inside out, then we will not be able to put that plan into action. And then comes tailoring to our needs and aspirations. So as we move towards Industry 4.0, and Industry 4.0 means using smart technology in all types of industries, manufacturing, industrial, and other types as well. And the urgent need to collaborate and communicate effectively, we have to straddle two aspects: our needs and our aspirations. So as leaders, we can facilitate the labor market insertion. And now we know we are moving towards Industry 4.0. And we know that we have to prepare our middle school and high school learners for the university. And in the university, they have so much to learn in all subjects, and also how to build their character with their soft skills development. So by the time they reach the labor market, they should easily fit in there. So that's why it has to start with in school. For example, in a 2002 edition of the Quarterly Journal of Economics, technology adoption is complex, as they explain it, when there are complementarities between a new technology, labor, and the structures of the organizations. So that's why empowering workers with technological skills is indispensable. We as leaders and teachers can also foster skills-based profiles, so that the focus is not always on the report cards, on grades, and on the degrees later, although these are important, but they should not be the main focus. This means that in our schools, we can design curricula with competencies. And I have interesting posts actually on my blog, one of which is generic skills, generating thrust, and the other is 21st century learning O.R.B.I.T.S model. And I will be adding the links in the description box below. And one more thing that leaders and teachers can do is that they can seriously train the learners to detect biased information as they use digital resources. And that's so important. In the Program for International Student Assessment, PISA 2018, it was very clearly noted that in the report that about half of the students who took the assessments expressed that they had no training on how to recognize facts from opinions. Now, this is a very serious matter because this interferes in the workers later making wise judgments in their early career lives. Moving to the last, which is the S, or spotting and solving our problems practically. Now, we all know that COVID crisis affected labor market dramatically and different groups due to the restrictions of social distancing and closures. Now, two interesting resources to check are COVID-19 Business Impact Survey conducted by the International Trade Center, IDC, and World Employment and Social Outlook Trends 2021. These two resources share interesting findings in relation to different sectors, to working hours, income categories, supply chains, and much more. And this all reveals a myriad of factors that need to be considered for the recovery from COVID. So as leaders and teachers, we can support and show compassion instead of putting certain pressures on those young workers we have in our own schools, so they do not think of quitting early, and we can be good role models for our learners. We can also enhance agility, the ability to work harmoniously and more productively by having clear school improvement plans and policies. Adopting fair recruitment policies. For example, when schools hire teachers' assistants, usually in some cases they are non-graduates, only to pay lower wages, and that this is a pure example of not setting good standards. We can also, as leaders, we can stop unfair termination of employment or training if we make wise decisions. So it is all related in the way we act, the way we show ourselves as role models to our learners who will grow to be those future workers. So let us plan properly to provide the right competencies needed by our youth. I am pleased to be launching very soon a new series on this channel for youth related to work-based learning, like I said. So stay tuned and subscribe to the channel to be notified when it starts. We have so much to give our communities. And please feel free to check the 3 following posts of my blog, www.orbitsdevelopment.com/blog. Generic Skills Generating Thrust, 21st Century Learning Orbits Model, PISA 2018 Results Focusing on Fundamentals, and I will leave the links in the box below. So let's nurture conscious learning and being.